This course is unique, and I wanted to give you just a brief vignette today of something that happened to me 8 years ago that sort of led directly to my interest in doing a course like this. And first I'm going to play you a CBC television video. I was very proud of this video at the time, but my perceptions of it have changed a great deal. And now what I really notice are the sounds of the wind, because the wind was sort of pivotal in what happened to me in this particular event in St. John's, Newfoundland.
Dr. Kim Solez is a big Leonard Cohen fan. He came all the way from Edmonton just to go to this 4-day tribute to Cohen on stage at the LSPU Hall in downtown St. John's. Of course, there's more to this city than just music. Signal Hill, for example. Some well-meaning local resident even showed Dr. Solez and his wife Elaine how to get to the trail.
She was recommending that for us. I guess she didn't realize it'd been a bit of snow and ice and a really hard-packed snow.
The Solezes set out from Cabot Tower around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, figuring they'd breeze through the trail. No such thing. By the time they reached this part, they were crawling on their bellies.
You could see the other bridges, but no path and just hard-packed snow. I was really scared because I felt so close to falling off the edge, and I honestly felt that any attempt for me to get to that next bridge was going to really tumble me into the drink there, and no one would ever see me again. It was a very steep drop.
Around 4:30, stuck on the ice with night falling fast, Dr. Solez called 911 on his cell phone, and a rescue crew set out to bring them back.
It was really frightening. I've been to a lot of parts of the world that are dangerous on record, where everybody recommends that you not go there. But the real danger, this was tangible danger you can feel, not just the theory, not just an advisory you read on the net. This was real danger.
How do you feel? Cold?
Yeah. Dr. Solez and his wife got a ride back to their hotel, frozen, with bruised knees and a bit shaken up, but otherwise okay, and with enough time to freshen up and make the night's show. Atsritsori, CBC News, St. John's.
Okay. Very few people carried around an extra battery for their cell phone, and that proved to be pivotal too. Anyway, I'm going to talk about this a little bit now. So, when a cell phone with an extra battery saved my life on Signal Hill, it got me thinking about whether this was a metaphor for whether technology will save us all in the long run. You all know about the other possibility that technology could bring about an existential risk event that could wipe us all out, but maybe it is more on the positive side. Or will technology lead to our demise? So I'll tell you the story of Signal Hill. You can come to your own conclusions. So since 2002, I've been running Leonard Cohen birthday events, including music and art and poetry and all the things that are Leonard Cohen. And there is a woman in St. John's, Newfoundland, who runs something called the Feast of Cohen. People there in that fishing community, you can't fish in the winter, so there's not much to do in the winter. And so between Christmas and New Year's, they have this Feast of Cohen. And she got the idea of asking us to come as a special guest for her event. So we arrived on December 28th with plans to attend the December 29th performance at 8 p.m. And there wasn't much to do there, Not really. We looked out our window, and every time we looked out, there was Signal Hill. And I'd been up Signal Hill before in the summer. It's a wonderful place to walk. And it seemed to be beckoning to me, to us, come to me, you know? Every time we looked out, there it was. So by the next day, we decided to go to Signal Hill. So after lunch, we took the cab up to Cabot Tower, which is that building on the top. And it's a very good picture there in the sign. You can see how steep that rock face is along the side. And you know it's called Signal Hill because that's where Marconi received the first transatlantic radio message back in 1901. So it's very important from a technology point of view from that standpoint. And it's interesting to think about the difference between the way my wife was dressed and the way I was dressed. She had on a normal coat, which has reasonable friction. I mean, when you rub that coat against the snow, you know, my coat was extremely slick, and so that made a difference. Also, I'm a bigger, heavier object, maybe. And so there's not much to do in Cabot Tower. There's a gift shop. So we went into the gift shop. I got some batteries for my digital camera, and the clerk was mumbling about having a bad day. Well, people do that, you know, but she was having a bad day for some reason. I don't know why. And we asked her, well, how should we get back down? Because we wanted to go up Signal Hill. We'd done that. And, you know, how should we get back down? She didn't give us multiple options. She just gave us one option. She said, well, you should take the North Head Trail. It's beautifully scenic right along the sea, and you'll be down in the city in 45 minutes. And, well, in the summer, that is the best answer. But in the winter, that trail is lethal. I mean, but the thing is, they just had winter came late for them that year. So they just had their first major snow, and I think she was thinking that it was still before that. But anyway, so we set out, and we did notice, I mean, there's a question of how stupid we were. We did notice there were no footprints in the snow, but she said that this was the thing to do, and initially, it was just like she said. It was scenic, it was beautiful, we could see the sea, and it was fun. But gradually, the going became more and more difficult with very strong wind and sea spray. We were a long way up from the sea, but still, the wind was so strong that we're getting a lot of spray from the sea. And finally, we could not go any further. We couldn't go forward or back, and we were losing the light. It was getting dark. So we were literally creeping along on our bellies, and I kept slipping toward the edge, and my wife said, I don't think I can help you, and that's true. I don't think she could have helped me. If she had grabbed hold of me, we might have both gone over, you know, so. But she didn't have this problem slipping toward the edge, but I did. So anyway, and I think it has to do, and the other thing, if you know anything about dying in the cold, you know that when you stop shivering, that's when you should start worrying. Because as long as you're shivering, your body's sort of coping with the cold. But when you get beyond the point where you can shiver anymore, that's when things can really go from bad to worse. So we did reach that point where we had been shivering and we stopped shivering. But finally, I was able to grab on to the wooden post of the 17th bridge. There are these multiple bridges along the trail. And I realized I should make a phone call. Now, the interesting thing was, back then, it was very common to end up in a city where your phone didn't work because, you know, I had a Fido phone, there was no Fido network there, and so on. That would be less common now. But you may notice on your cell phone bill, this is one part of the bill that I really like. I'm a fan of this part of the bill. Any cell phone bill, there's a line item for 911 access. And what does that give you? That means that if your cell phone does not have the right to use the network for regular calls, you can still use it for 911. And so that's what I did. It was the only kind of call that I could make, but I couldn't complete the call because even though in my boredom in the hotel room, I had thought it'd be really cool to charge my cell phone batteries, and I had 2 of them, so I had 2 fully charged batteries. But the sea spray with the regular porous cover of the phone was getting inside the phone and shorting out the circuit board, so that I kept getting a report of low battery. But I learned if I would warm the phone and the battery and switch them, I could talk just long enough to tell the people where we were, and then it would short out again and so on. So it was very exciting from that point of view, and I think if I had only had 1 battery, I probably would not have been able to make that call. But their answer was very simple. They said, "We'll come get you, sir." So that sounded good to me. And about 40 minutes later, we saw these 6 guys coming over the ridge with lights. And what was kind of cool is they don't put themselves all at risk. One of them comes down to us, and the other 5 guys stay behind, you know, because you don't want to put 6 people at risk just to say. So this one guy rappels down with a rope to where we are and attaches the rope to myself and to my wife and to the digital camera, which was separately saved. It had its own sort of saving episode, and reeled us back up to more stable ground. And then we walked up the trail, and then you sort of saw what it was like when we got up there. There was enough time, and it was a slow news day, that we were in all the media, radio, TV, newspaper, and it was a really big deal. And if you think about a similar thing now, it wouldn't be a story, right? If you're in trouble and you call for help on your cell phone, that's just normal life. That's not a story. So it shows you how much things have changed over this period of time. So this is not an actual picture I took, but it's a picture of kind of what it was like with a guy rappelling down with the rope and connecting the rope to us and so on. And as you saw, when they asked, my lips were frozen, my face was frozen, but anyway. So the police whisked us back to the hotel. We freshened up, and we got to the concert right at 8 o'clock, and there were those guest of honor seats right in the middle. And you know, it was really cool that although this terrible thing had happened to us, it was all over in time for us to go to the show. And so a cell phone saved my life in 2004, and I think it gave me a sort of bonding with technology. You know, it made me feel like I wanted to celebrate the relationship between humans and machines. But you could imagine that today cell phones are, quote, saving lives every day, every hour, every minute, and we just don't think about it. I mean, it's the same as every time you cross the street. The fact that you're able to see and hear saves your life, but you don't think about it that way, right? So it shows you. So if the default position now of human beings is that we all have cell phones, is it correct to say that we are saved by cell phones regularly, or does it just sort of merge into the background? Is that the wrong way to think about it? Maybe we reset life's expectations to where we are always able to reach others when we need them, and that just becomes normal life. And it's just like, you remember Osmer Zain talking about AI, that when AI is really successful, we don't call it AI anymore. It's just AI until the point where it begins to succeed, and then it becomes part of whatever it's in. It's part of whatever device. And I think this would probably be similar. In 2004, we were talking about cell phones saving people, and it's not so much like that anymore. Technology probably makes us safer in general, so as a part of this whole thing of post-scarcity, you know, abundance, the way technology is making life better, it's probably also making life safer.
So Dr. Solez, you always say that technology's made life better for us and it's safer and everything, but do you also think that technology's complicating our lives more? There's more things that we need to pay attention to because it's speeding up the pace of life so much?
Well, I guess it depends upon how many things we don't have to worry about anymore that we had to worry about before. And so if you take, you know, primitive man and you think of his fending for food and so on, the kind of survival challenges of our original situation, there are many things now that we don't have to worry about. And I think it's impossible to decide what the balance is, really, whether we're better off or not. But I think, isn't it likely that these gradual changes in society that make us safer are not things that we notice as anything dramatic? But I mean, let's just take a woman walking alone in a scary place, right? In the past, there was no solution to that. Now there is. You don't even have to have a cell phone. You just pretend that you have one, right? And you talk on this pretend cell phone, and all the bad guys think that you're in contact with the outside world, and so, right? So I mean, it's changed things a lot in fairly dramatic ways. And I think there is the refusenick possibility still. I mean, I notice still that there are people, even today, who pride themselves on not having cell phones and who don't respond to email and so on. It's still possible to do that. You're really bucking a huge tide, and you have to accept a life very different from everybody else's life. But you can live life without email, without cell phone. You can lead a life of solitude still. And I would think that part of what will happen between now and, like Jonathan White says, between point A and point B, we have privacy now, still. We have times when nobody else knows what we're doing. We're truly private in those moments. You can imagine that along with privacy goes some lack of safety, because if there are times where nobody knows what we're doing, then if something bad happens, maybe nobody knows that something bad's happening to us, right? And you can imagine future changes in society where there can be particles you can't see, which are sort of nano cameras that are, you know, visualizing everything. So privacy's gone, but assuming that the right people are in charge of those cameras, then you're no longer likely to die alone of something terrible, you know? That with losing privacy, you would have the instant, you know, availability of help when you want it. And so it seems to me there's always that kind of counterbalance. Some of these ideas are very hard to accept, like the idea we would lose privacy entirely. Almost every human being finds this abhorrent. But if you just look at the way things are going, if you visit the UK or big US cities and look at how often you're obviously on camera, you know, it's just a sort of further extension of that will come in the future, I think.